Hey guys, what is up? Gerald here and welcome to another episode of the Biomutant Deep Dive series here on the channel. So if all goes well, Biomutant will release on the 25th of May of 2021. And with this release date in mind, we still have some time to dive into everything we know about the game so far. So last week we started the series off strong with a look at Biomutant's open world and story. And this week we will continue that approach by having a detailed and better look at the character creation system and the combat of Biomutant. Because the game will feature a very unique character creation system and will also provide us with a new yet familiar take on combat. But before we are dropping into episode 2 of the Biomutant Deep Dive, I would like to remind you that dropping a like would be really appreciated as it will help the channel out, and in order to stay updated on the latest Biomutant content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also hit that notification button to get notified whenever I post a new video, including the weekly Biomutant Deep Dives. So with that being said, I hope you guys will enjoy the video and let's get into the details, starting off with the Biomutant's extensive character creation system. Of course it is possible that the character creation has received an overhaul over the last few months or year, but what we have already seen of the system in Biomutant is character creation at its finest. So when starting Biomutant, players will be able to sort of create their own Biomutant through a character creation system which focuses on 6 attributes, being strength, vitality, charisma, intellect, agility and luck. And all these attributes have an effect on specific characteristics and stats of your mutant. For example, vitality will affect your character's health regain and armor, whereas agility will affect the movement and attack speed of your mutant, but also the amount of dodge energy and the range of your attacks. But probably the best thing of the entire character creation system is the fact that the stats and attributes you choose will directly affect the appearance of your character. So when you for example choose to spec into agility, you will have a somewhat smaller character which will be faster, but will have less health and strength. And when you're speccing into strength and vitality, it will result in a somewhat bigger and bulkier character that can take quite a hit and do quite some damage at the cost of being a bit slower in terms of agility. And personally, I really like a system like that, since it is not often that games will allow this form of customization in their games. And apart from the speccing of the stats, you will of course be able to choose the gender of your character, select the fur you want and even color this fur however you like. So the game will allow you to make your character almost entirely to your liking and your desired playstyle. However, I have to say that this is footage of the alpha build, so it is possible that things will change a bit or look a bit different. But as far as I know, the system will be present in the game when it drops in a couple of months' time. The character creation will of course have its biggest effect on your playing style and more importantly the combat, which brings us to the second part of the second episode of the deep dive, the combat system. Biomutant will also include an extensive combat system, because as we could see in the trailers there will be a lot of it. And this combat system will also provide the players with a wide variety of weapons and tools to their disposal to fight their way through the world. But let's start at the basis. The combat in Biomutant is influenced by martial arts and Kung Fu specifically. However, this melee combat style will be called the Wushu combat style, and there actually will be a number of specific Wushu styles in the game, which can be learned and acquired through progression and from the many different Wushu masters which you will meet throughout your quest of saving the Tree of Life. And when looking at the combat, you can definitely see that it took inspirations from that of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Devil May Cry and more, as the developers have already openly admitted. And honestly, I can't wait to see what types of Wushu combat styles there will be in the final game and how different these will play and feel from each other. However, it is already clear from the gameplay that the combat does rely much on crowd control and making combos, which I personally really like. And of course, with such a big combat system comes a wide variety of weapons, and these can be categorized in melee weapons, range weapons and tools, starting with the melee weapons. So in Biomutant you will be able to craft various types of weapons, from gear, resources and materials that you will find along your journey, and these can be subcategorized in slashing, crushing and piercing types such as swords, hammers, spears or staff-like weapons and more. And as I said earlier, these can be made from materials you will find in the world. And a funny example of this is that you can actually make a weapon from the remains of a toothbrush. And that is how far the weapon creation in the game can go. And I'm curious how big the system eventually will be in the game. Biomutant will also have a number of ranged weapons such as shotguns, rifles and pistols or revolvers to barrage enemies with damage from a distance. And the combinations of both melee weapons and ranged weapons makes way for some quick-paced combat and combo making, which may feel a bit Devil May Cry-ish. Apart from the guns and the melee weapons, there also will be a great variety of tools that will help you in combat. You will, for example, be able to create your own automaton, which will be sort of a robot toy scrap companion, or more sort of a tool that you can adjust to your liking. And in the gameplay video, we could already see a glimpse of this automaton in the form of a hand, with which you can shoot at enemies. But we will dive deeper into this automaton creation in another video, in which we will take a deeper dive into the huge crafting system that will supposedly be in the game. And at last, you will also be able to recode the genetic structure of your mutant, which will change the way you play and experience combat, as well as the direct appearances of your character. So when, for example, your biomutant gets exposed to biocontamination in the world, it can lead to physical mutations such as mantis claws or barbed tails, which will affect the way you play and fight. While exposure to radioactivity found in the many bunkers in the world will affect your mutant's mind, as it will unlock different abilities which are called psi mutations, which will include things such as telekinesis, levitation and more. So you can, for example, lift heavy objects with your mind to throw them towards enemies. And according to all the details we currently have on the combat of the game, the scope of its combat system really will be massive, as there will be so many different factors that will come into play. And the best thing about such a big system has to be that it will allow players to really experiment with the different playing and fighting styles and adjust it to their own liking and playing style to experience it in their own unique way. But this brings us to the end of the second episode of the Biomutant Deep Dive, covering the character creation system and the extensive combat system. And next week, in already the third episode of the Biomutant Deep Dive, we will take a detailed look at Biomutant's crafting system and its huge gear system, which gives a really meaningful purpose to gear in the game. But more on that in the next episode. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this second episode of the Biomutant Deep Dive. If you did, definitely leave a like, since it would be really appreciated. And to stay updated on the latest Biomutant content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode, as it will help improve the quality of the content here on the channel. So next Thursday I will upload the third episode, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching and see you in the next one.